Hello.
Hello.
We
How are
almost ran
you?
after the ice cream truck. I heard it from a distance, like my past haunting me. And I came in and I was like, hello, who's there? And it's like, knock, knock, it's Spider-Man, motherfuckers. And so I was like, should we go on an adventure? And then it ran up the street because I don't have enough children on my street for it to like be like, oh yeah, we gotta go down the street. They don't know that I'm a child at heart. So they left. And I was so sad. I was so sad.
This is reminding me. Okay, so my partner and I watched All That, which I feel like you're an All That fan. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Um, there was a sketch where I guess it's Josh Bell or whatever, but it's like him when he's younger with like that awesome middle part and like super 90s haircut.
Josh, you just slapped them together, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Isn't
I
it
did just slap it.
Josh Peck, Jake Bell, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot that they were different people for a
I was
second.
heavily influenced by the Amanda Show growing up.
Good. That's good. Yeah. But anywho, that sketch I'll have to look it up and send it to you because it's basically him as like this crazy guy and he's like answering the phone and being like the ice cream and then like he calls somebody and he's like the ice cream truck and it's like he just all these distractions and then of course he like ends up like pushing his sister and like throwing children and like all this stuff. He gets to the ice cream truck and he didn't bring any money and like he's lost teeth. He has like a dog attached to his ankle that is just like followed. Yeah, it's
Incredible.
great. All that. Somebody said Amanda, please. Yes.
Wait, Amanda, please.
That's better than what I could do. Thank you.
On short notice, I didn't have any time to practice that.
To get into the zone, to get into the character. Like,
yeah, you gotta, I'm a professional actor. Can you tell?
yes.
I am all of the professional. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, "So you just do everything." When somebody asked you what hobbies you wanted, you just said yes, and I was like, "So you get it." You get it. I
Yeah.
don't know. I lied my way into being a voice actor, and then it just kind of stuck, and it was great. And
I
now
love
I'm on
that.
banks where it's like, please hold. A service representative will be with you shortly.
And you, yes, that's perfect. I
Yeah.
can only hope that I will hear your voice while I'm having to call a bank one day because that's probably the best part of that situation would be to hear your voice while I'm waiting on like hold for a bank.
A lot of
So
people don't recognize me, which I think is really fun.
yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah. And people are very thrown off by the fact that I look the way that I do, but I sound the way that I do. And so like I had early on in my TikTok career in my like I don't know what the fuck to call it. But early on in me starting to make TikTok videos, I blew up for being a voice actor, and all of my voice acting videos, went pretty viral. And um, there was one where I was saying like credit card options or something, and I was on hold bank voice, where it's like for 0% interest APR. And people are like, I cannot understand. I cannot compute it in my brain that she's wearing like a t-shirt and a hoodie, but she's telling me about finances, and it's like, it just, what? And I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I look like. Usually I'm in like shorts when I do VO stuff because it's just like, it's hot. It's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, the sound is hot. That's
But
like when
now I get asked to do things with just my personality, which is really weird because instead of modulating everything, now they're like, do the silly voice. And I'm like, what up? Hey guys, how's it going? Don't forget to smash that like button. Like whatever.
what are we? Are we puppets? Like, is that how that works?
Oh my gosh. It was like I was an early YouTuber. I was an OG YouTuber. I started making videos in 2008. Uh Literally you can watch me grow up on camera. It's bizarre. But like I remember when things were in different places, and I tried so hard to get like catchphrases to like catch on,
Mhm.
and they never did. Sometimes, like one, don't forget to like it if you do, was one of my catchphrases. And then like, and the links are chilling with the koalas because they're down under. I know. Oh, I know. It's cringy. It's cringy. My videos are now being put on cringe compilation videos, Rebecca. I am aware of my circumstance. I understand this. Me eating ice cream got 1.2 million views 6 years after the fact. 16-year-old me made a decision to just run after the ice cream truck. And then 6 years later, when I am a fully formed adult, like have a career, have a reputation, have won awards, and then suddenly that pops up. And the only way that I find out that it's been memed in different circles, including on Vine, is when at my company, the IT guy comes in and be like, "You look familiar." That's how I found out. And now I have to talk about it in job interviews, and it's stupid.
There is a series, I think Vice News does it, where they talk about people who were memes, and I feel like you would get something out of that. Like they talk to Rebecca Black, and they talk to like the old guy meme, and they talk to the what is it, the I think it's the guy, it's like his old photo from like the 80s, you
Oh,
know?
his high school photo? The awkward guy
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I've seen that. It's like on Netflix or something, isn't it?
It's on YouTube actually.
On YouTube?
Yeah,
Nice.
which I love that Vice News puts everything on YouTube. I'm like, yes, everybody can access this. This is perfect.
I've been my day was spent half working, half researching if I can find any Shakespeare, like Royal Shakespeare Company slime tutorials on YouTube, full plays, because I may or may not collect bootlegs. So I'm just I was like, where can
You
I find?
pirate you.
Yeah. I used to have a vendetta against pirates. I used to hate pirates. Don't ask me.
Is it
I'm
is it is
very
it because
opinionated
you
for no
secretly hated
reason.
yourself until you realized that you were one? Did you come out of the pirate closet?
Mom, I have something to tell you. What's that, honey? I don't know how I feel about this. It's new to me, and I'm sure it'll be new to you. No, we've known you're gay for a while. You played softball, you build things, you write slam poetry. No, we know. No, it has nothing to do with that. Mom, I'm a pirate. I used to like wake up from nightmares of like having the Pirates of the Caribbean theme song play because my roommate in college was a very big Pirates of the Caribbean fan. And so to annoy me because she was a bitch, she would watch the movies when I was taking a nap. And I'd wake up angry.
That's great. That's great. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. That's really all I have to say. Because at first I was like, past life? It's like maybe not. I mean, maybe so. Maybe you were reliving that trauma, and Pirates of the Caribbean just like brought it
I feel
out.
like I could have been a pirate.
I feel like that too. You're
I feel like I
Sagittarius,
could have been a
right?
pirate. What?
You're Sagittarius, right?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like, I mean, maybe this is a generalization, but I feel like every Sagittarius has probably been a pirate at some point in their lives. This is basing it off of all the Sagittarians that I know, including my partner.
Hannah's also a Sagittarius. What
Perfect
if
chaos.
we have the same name, we have the same sign, it's great. If what if we were on a ship together in our past lives? I would have loved that.
You would have been, have you seen Our Flag Means Death?
Yes, of course. The gay
Okay,
pirate
good. So,
show? Why would
yeah,
yes, I've seen it.
just checking. I feel you two would have been like, okay, but I'm forgetting the names. It's the one who everybody thought was a guy, and then the guy who was in love with them, I feel is the more proper pronoun, even though it was like different time period and people weren't calling themselves they them. I feel like that would be you and Hannah.
Yeah, I can see that. Incredible.
Oh goodness. So we should probably get to the subject
Yeah,
at hand.
people are spamming I forget. Can I cuss on your stuff?
Um, selectively, yes. When you need to say it, I just say it.
For comedic effect. I see. I see. I see. Everybody is spamming my comments, being like, "We got to talk about Steve."
Yes. Okay, that's good. Your people are on it. My people are like, all of you are wonderful. You're just like, gay pirate show? What? Like, people, you're just on the ride for this one. So
I don't think
thank you
I've
for
ever
being
had this
chill, my
many people
people.
register for a live before. It's just because oh, there's a lot of new people. There's a lot of new people. They're here for ghosts, but they have yet to know of Merry and Pippin.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Um, so we should start the story with what, like 3 weeks ago. And we would have done this sooner, but I was in the woods for the past week, which was wonderful. I reconnected with my favorite river. And if you can imagine me like sitting, basically, I hiked out to the middle of this river where there was nobody. And then there was this log. It was like a dead tree that had been moved just, I think, 10 years ago on a giant hurricane, right? And like it's just sitting there in the middle with like its roots sticking out in the middle of the whole river, and I'm just sitting there like this for literally hours doing nothing. So I described it as a religious experience. That's my religion. I am sitting on a tree in the middle of a river, and that's what I identify as my religion. So for anybody who was like, why didn't you do this live earlier? It's because I was having a religious experience on a tree in the middle of the river. So thank you for embracing my religion. So So 3 weeks ago, what, you sent me like a text, right? You were
Yeah, I was okay. So it all started with Christopher.
Oh, she had an idea. But I'm honored that in order to check her idea, who does she text? Me! Hey, do you have time to talk about this spirit box session I just did? Not getting great vibes from it. Could use a sounding board. I've leveled up to Hannah's sounding board. So she calls me up and we start talking a little bit about it. I'm like, Hannah, can I do the thing that I do during consultations? And Hannah's like, yes. So I ask if I can connect with her energy. She gives me that consent, and then I start reading who in the world are we talking to? Now, Hannah's clairvoyant, so she's able to look in front of her and tell me if my reading is correct. Without her having said anything about what this guy looked like, I explained how his head seemed a little bit smaller for his very large chest, or like he was wearing a large jacket. She confirmed. It was also super cool that both of us were having this ongoing conversation with him. She was able to sit with him in real time, whereas I was tapping into the energy. And it was the first time that she and I had actually read together, like in real time together. And let me tell you, it was just so cool. Honestly, it is one of the coolest, just fun things when clairvoyant, medium, spiritualist, spiritually sensitive people get together and we can just sit there and confirm what is happening in live time. Now, Steve had a combination of things that were kind of working against him at the time, some of which were when he was alive and some of which was happening to him in spirit. I gave some suggestions to Steve on things that he could do to help with what he was dealing with. And then after the call, Hannah got to watch as he tried to do the things. Of course, this is not the full story. For that, we're actually going to go live together to talk about it. And if you're wondering, did we film this experience? No, and we made fun of ourselves afterwards for it. So instead, we're going to film the post experience, and all of you can be in on that live with us.
I knew I was out of my depth when it came to Steve. Like, the whole situation was really weird. Like, I don't really deal with this sort of paranormal stuff. Like, this is very much a good vibes only house. So, like, having a really, really angry, mostly human spirit was not something I typically deal with. And that's when I called my friend Rebekah the Ghost Guide, because she does consultations, she does cleansings, she knows how to do that stuff from afar, which is a different skill than being able to just see them in person, something that I don't have. And she has a lot more experience when it comes to handling this kind of stuff than I do. So while I'm sitting on the phone with Rebekah, telling her what I'm seeing real time, and her telling me the energy that she's picking up from afar, we finally figure out what Steve's deal is. Turns out Steve was a man who, in passing, had basically wrapped himself in a non-human entity that was forcing him to go out and obtain energy. Basically, he was Venom, but like as a ghost.
If you haven't been following along on the new spirit that's been hanging around Hannah's house, check out the videos that both of us have been making recently. In summary, what happened was she called me up in order to do a brief reading on what she was getting in her house. She's clairvoyant, so she can see with her physical eyes. I'm primarily an energy reader, but I also see clairvoyantly just through my mind's eye, and that's how I'm able to read from afar. I described what I was seeing to her, and she was able to confirm right on the spot that's exactly what she was seeing too. So what's up with Steve? Like, why was his torso so big? And why was he putting out that awful energy? Turns out the soul of Steve had been carrying a pretty heavy weight, something that I call a thought form spirit. Thought form spirits are just that. They are spirits that are created by thoughts. Because thoughts have energy to them, right? And they always go somewhere. Sometimes if they get built up over time, they can actually create an entity, and sometimes that entity can even gain sentience over time, whether that's through a soul or whether that's just through energy over time. In this case, the energy of this entity, this thought form spirit, had actually latched onto the soul of Steve. We found out that this entity had not only latched onto Steve because when he was alive, he experienced a lot of hunger, but also because he hadn't dealt with his feelings before he passed. And so when he passed on, he had a lot of reflection to do. And when he was unable to reflect in a proactive way, this spirit popped on. This spirit may have also been associated with him while he was still alive and just kind of stayed. This is why Hannah and I are advocates for mental health. It catches up. And so the best thing you can do is live in your present right now and do everything you possibly can to help yourself. Mental health and spiritual health are always interwound with each other. And I don't say any of this to create fear for anyone. I say this because you are in control of your own life. You can take measures, you can take steps exactly for yourself to better yourself. And what better time to do that than right now? Steve will not be stuck with this entity on him forever. Absolutely no. In fact, we're already working with him, taking mental health steps that he can do now in spirit in order to shed that energy. And when I go live with Hannah, we're going to be getting an update on him. As I do with consultations, I gave Steve some homework and it kind of confused him. Sometimes we got to talk to ghosts about things that they can actually do and energy that they can absorb in a safe way instead of, leeching off of people or something like that. So I gave him other avenues that he could explore, and we're going to be learning about how he's doing and his progress. Tune into the live, the link's on this video and on my bio.
All right, I think it's time we discuss the Steve story. No, I'm not talking about Steve Harrington. I'm talking about the weird Steve who interrupted my spirit box session with Christopher. I'm clairvoyant, meaning that I can see and interact with spirits, so I really only use the spirit box for other means of communication, because usually I can just talk to them one-on-one. Everyone had requested a Christopher spirit box session part 2 video, so I was trying to get that, asking him some of the questions you've asked me to ask him, like favorite music, favorite color, favorite sport, whatever, And I felt like he was being really timid. I was picking up on his energy, and it was really standoffish, which is very much not Christopher. And then Steve showed up right in front of me, a little angry, and I was like, oh, that's why. Nothing I can't handle, but definitely different and not one of the regular ghosts in my house. And that's what I called my friend Rebekah the Ghost Guide to get some backup. Right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, Christopher is here. You'll see him walking around. I'll tell you if he comes over and hangs out. But he was stoked about today. So I made a video for the Travel Channel using the spirit box. The prompt was asking questions about LGBTQ issues and discussion topics and stuff like that. And I did 2 sessions that the first one was 18 minutes and the second one was 20 minutes or something like that. And first one was just John and Peggy, and the second one was Christopher. And I knew Christopher was going to be a hooligan about it. And I knew it was going to be some fun content. But because I'm clairvoyant, I usually don't have to use spirit boxes or any sort of tools or anything like that.
It's for the people that you use as spirit box. It's the
same people are well, then why do you do stuff like that? And it's well, so that you can partake. I can just talk to him. I can just be hey, how's it going? He'll sit next to me. And we'll just talk or just hang out. Mostly it's watching shows in the Alaskan wilderness. And, we just vibe on that. It's great.
That's the truth of a haunting, though. It's when you're not alone in a room and because you're watching a specific show or genre and you just know that the ghost likes to watch it. I found out not long ago that in my ghost reenactments, I was making ghost TV, and I got a number of comments being like, yeah, I think my house is haunted, but whenever I'm watching my videos, I feel like I'm really not alone. Or like whenever they were watching my videos, like,
Yeah.
I was just like, cool, I have created a genre.
Your ghost telenovelas. I love it.
Yeah. Really though. Really though.
So I cut together all the footage and I posted both the videos, and then I posted the Christopher Spirit Box video, which blew up, and brought in a lot of really cool, really fun people. You know, took off immediately, and everybody was demanding like a Christopher Part 2 video. And I was like, okay, like he dipped out for like 3 days. He left. He wasn't here. He felt like really weird with being perceived by that many people, because like, keep in mind, he was 17 when he died in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so like, he's an 80s kid, didn't necessarily grow up with tech. Like, you know, think Stranger Things technology. That's kind of where we're at. And he's like kind of gathered information and like watches TikToks with me, and he knows how to do this now, which is really annoying. And he knows what dabbing is, because every now and then I'll just be like, what are you doing? And I'll just go like that, and then he'll leave. It's so dumb. But
So great,
like,
you mean.
but he was not like, he knew that I made videos and has helped me make videos before, and like all three of the ghosts like know each other, and they like, you know, they don't hang out, but they like, you know, cordial to each other. But he was really freaked out about being perceived by that many people that quickly. And so he just wasn't around. And so finally I was like, hey, you know, he came back, and I was like, you want to help me make another Spirit Box video? I'm going to ask you some of the questions people have asked me to ask you. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, yeah, it sounds sick. And I was like, okay.
I have such a soft spot for him. Like, I really do. He's living his best second life, you know? Like, he's
somebody told me to go like, what's up to him, and now that's what we do. Anytime I notice him, like, I project that, and I'm like, what's up? And I just hear him like turn around and he goes, what's up? And it's great.
Very good. So good.
The first TikTok famous goes, well, I believe Rebekah actually has that title.
I don't know. I guess the first TikTok reenactment famous ghost, because I didn't put. It was only until I went live that I actually was like, hey, you want to show up? Like, whatever.
So I talked to Christopher. I talked to Christopher, and I was like, let's do another video. And he was like, great. And I, for like a couple of weeks, had been seeing different things happen. And I have like, you need to give me your Snapchat, because I send all of these Snapchats of all my haunting activity to my friends. And like, things are like pushing my gnome over. I have a gnome at the bottom of my stairs. Like, you know, doors are opening and closing. Just random stuff is happening. I've been hearing a lot of clapping, like really loud clapping. Mm-hmm. And it's usually at the bottom of the stairs or in the living room. And I've been hearing this clapping, this loud, like, for a couple of weeks. And I was like, what is going on? And for the longest time, I thought it was Christopher. But I was like, it's the wrong energy. Like, when Christopher does it, he usually likes me to know it was him.
Yeah.
Like, he's the kind of prankster to, like, immediately pop out and be like, I got you, you know? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it wasn't him, because then I'd see him and I'd be like, did you do that? And he's like, no. I was like, okay. Who the fuck is clapping in my house? Who's doing that? And so, you know, finally answering some of the questions, I sat down to do another part 2 video with the Spirit Box. And I was like feeling really weird that day. Like, I hadn't been sleeping very well. Like, I kept having reoccurring night terrors, and it was like really bizarre, because they were they were recent ones. I've only ever had one, one before that, one episode of this night terror, but I immediately knew. So I was starting to lucid dream, and I only do that if I am on high alert when I'm sleeping. And so when I, did the thing, I was like, this feels really weird. Like I was getting this sharp pain in my shoulder, and I was like, I feel movement around me. It was heavy. It was dark. Christopher was just sitting next to me. Like we literally sat down with the spirit box in between us. And like, I think it's weird to like look them in the eyes, like look ghosts in the eyes, because then it looks
I usually
really
don't either. I'll like look.
It's so weird.
Else.
I know exactly where he is and what he's doing, but like I have to be like, ghost.
Yeah.
Play it up for camera. Ghost, wherever you may be. I know you're sitting right next to me. Wherever you may be in this home, stop giving me wet willies. Like, so he was sitting next to me this whole time, and I felt him literally go, and I was like, that's not good. That's not good. And I felt this menacing energy, like walking, pacing in front of us, just like real pumped, real amped. And it was like reaching out to me, and it had the sharp pain in my shoulder, and I was getting a lot of brain fog, and it hit me like a wave. And I've been seeing like weird stuff happen in my house. Like the energies felt off. What's really weird is that on the new moon, we cleanse the house. So anything who was here to actually harm us that wasn't of, kindness of spirit, shouldn't be around anymore. So it was like really bizarre for him to be there. And then suddenly Christopher disappeared, and I was like, this is not good. I stopped the recording. I was like, why am I stopping recording? We got to do it. You got to capture it on camera. If anything's going to happen, you need to get it on camera. So I just there was 2 seconds that I missed. And as soon as I turned it back on, I was like, this is weird. This is I'm starting to dictate what I'm saying. And then he just appeared in front of me. And he was like this big, bulky guy. And it felt like he was wearing football pads. He was wearing a blue plaid short sleeve button up with khaki slacks. And he had this dark mass, football pads around his chest. He had high and tight haircut, deep, deep wrinkles on his face, but he was young. What's it? Pleasantville. Have you ever seen the movie Pleasantville? Tobey Maguire. Who else is in that? Reese Witherspoon.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's great. It's so good. It's such a great movie. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But it was 1950s style. He very clearly passed in the 1950s. And he didn't seem old or older. He was late 30s. He was 35-ish. But he, it seemed like he had gone through some stuff and experienced a lot of hardship. And it was he was reaching out towards me. He's like, why won't you let me? It was that kind of energy. Why won't you let me do this? I just need you to let me do this. And it was oh, no, thank you. Get out of here with that. We don't do that in this house. Nuh-uh. So I was like, we gotta stop this. We gotta stop this. I gotta figure out what's going on. And I was like, who's the person who I know can help me? And so I sent you a text. I was like, hey, can you help me figure out what's going on here? Because I knew that you could do that stuff from afar, which is a very different skill than being able to see it, be there. Because I don't have that skill. I have to be there. I have to be in the room. I can't see stuff on camera unless physical aspects are affected. But I knew that you could read energy from afar. So I was like, wow, okay. I knew what was going on, but I also didn't want to think that I had venom living in my house. And so I was like, well, let's just double check. And so, I just sent you a text. I was like,
I was like out on my hammock, like, what's up?
And we FaceTime.
Which we didn't record, which we still were like, really? We didn't record this?
We didn't record it at all. And like literally like 5 minutes into our conversations, we were just like, should we have been recording this the whole time? And we were like, it's too late now. We just got to figure this out.
You know, I was thinking about it though. Like, it's one of those things. So all the description that you just gave, you didn't give me any of that at the gate. And I asked you not to because I didn't want to be primed. You simply said that you felt like something was around. It was making both you and Christopher uncomfortable, and it was creating like this bad air. So that's when, and as far as like the connecting go, it's like, if you can embrace or wrap your head around the concept that spirit is not bound by space or time, I'm of the belief that anybody can do something like this, whether it's like telepathy. Some people have like that connection with like twins or significant others, or just like people that they feel really close to. They can like connect with their energy whether they realize it or not. Some people do that with spirits, and that's how that works in a nutshell. The thing is though, like all the description that you just gave, I was able to give on an energetic level. At the same time, even if we had recorded the conversation, while it would be cool for our fans who, you know, are cool with this, whether they believe in us or not, it's almost like looking back, it still wouldn't, if there were any skeptics watching, it still wouldn't prove anything, because you could always say that we like talk to each other beforehand. So like for our fans, we wish we had recorded it, because it was a cool experience for me to be sitting there and being like, okay, is this what you see? Is this what you see? Is this what you see? And you being clairvoyant, being able to just like look over and be like, yes, 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 check, check, check. Also while Ghost is like standing there just being like,
we're talking about him to each other,
yeah,
and I'm just like side-eyeing him the whole time. I'm just like, yeah, he's really weird, and like I don't like him a lot, and he's being
his vibe is
mean.
off.
Like literally the conversation, our FaceTime was like, yeah, so he's over here. Oh, he's okay, he's walking over here now. He's looking at me weird. He's over there. Like,
yeah.
What is he doing? Like literally it was just me being like, okay, and then like he's over here now, and then I would just be like this, and she's telling him stuff, and I'm just like, you hear that? You need to listen. You need to listen. She's giving me some great advice, and I was, for the most part, I was over here so that you could see him.
Yeah. And what's funny is like sometimes I'll be able to see in the screen, but it's almost like my intuition connects with my clairvoyance, and then it like tells me where it is in the frame, but it's not always that like I see an outline or something like that. Sometimes I do, just like if they're, you know, particularly strong in how they're manifesting themselves. But really it's like my clear cognizance is like, to the left. And I'm just like, over there.
Yep.
It's a wild time in my brain, let me tell you.
It's like when you look at an image for too long and then that dot stays there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, but like spiritually, I guess. When you're like, I've zeroed in on this guy, and you can see when that moves, when that energy moves, you just like, it's like you can feel the ripples in the pond.
Mm-hmm.
It's like wild.
Yeah. So to Steve, we basically confirmed for each other what we were seeing, what we were feeling. I felt the heaviness that was around him, because you, once again, I was feeling it on my own, and basically I checked with you what you were seeing, and on an energetic level I was feeling like he was being weighed down by something. And there are a lot of different names, different cultures call them different things. I broad term them as thought form energies. A thought form energy can be oftentimes created by us. They can be created by other spirits, yes, though they are not always negative or positive. Sometimes they're just sort of there. A more, I guess, positive example is some people, when they walk into places of reverence or worship, it's like they walk in and they immediately just feel at ease, they feel balanced. So that is the kind of thought form energy. It may or may not have sentience to it, but it's something that's been created over time and perhaps even blessed by a particular deity. So then you have like the other thought form spirits that might be smaller, for example, that might attach to spirits, or sometimes us. And this one in particular had to do with hunger and desperation. Those are really two strong things, right? And that's something we were talking about. We believe that he may have had some issues with hunger when he was alive, that he perhaps did not deal entirely with those feelings of hunger that when they meant to, because it's not just the physical, it can also be what that does to you mentally. And that's why in the video that I put about thought form spirits that I put up, I talked a lot about mental health, because there's some people out there who believe that once we pass, that you don't have to learn anymore. And that's why I know you and I are on the same level on this. We're like, hey, live in the present now. It's easier to fix things now. It's easier to clean your conscience, to talk to the person you need to go to the therapist you need to see, to make right by you, to live the most honest life to what you feel is right, to be present now. Because when you pass on, sometimes, yes, you can pass on and you kind of check the box and you're like, I learned the lessons I meant to learn. I'm going to move on, whatever that means. For you, I always say whatever it means for you. But then there are some people who, if they're running and running and running and they don't complete something, and if they don't learn the things that they want to learn or that they should have learned, it's not all predestination stuff, but yeah, it's kind of like, in what I found in mediumship readings, there's a time of reflection. And that time of reflection can take a long time or a short time. It's not always the same amount of time that we take here day to day. It can be very different for them. Time works incredibly different in spirit realm. But there will be reflection. So once again, going back, do what you can to be happy now. You will thank yourself later. Believe me, if you're going to
Yeah.
believe anything out of all of this, please believe, live your truth, be happy now.
Like, you know how when you get really stressed out and like your face just like gets really tense, like your jaw gets really tense or your body gets really tense, and you go through life and you're like, why am I uncomfortable all of the time? Imagine that happening, but like spiritually. So you take that with you, that same kind of like tension. Unless you do things to actively like take care of those, take care of yourself, processing trauma takes a crap ton of time. It's really hard to do. I was in therapy for like 10 years and it's still a lifelong process. Like, super, super respect therapists. It's a great thing to do. Even if you don't think you need therapy, you'll probably still need therapy. It's always good to be able to just like bounce things off of people, talk through stuff. Like, it teaches you tools of how to cope with stuff. And if you're not coping well, then that's a really good sign that, maybe you need to go to therapy or talk to people, have a confidant, do something that brings you joy. So like when you don't sort your stuff out when you're alive, you bring that tension with you, you bring your baggage with you to the afterlife. You're going to have to figure it out one way or another. And so you might as well do it while you're here. And because like, man, it just does not seem like it's worth it to do it in the afterlife. It feels exhausting. And I think that's why, like, ghosts blip out so frequently, is because it's exhausting. It takes a lot of energy. And, like, they don't really have support. You're on your own when you do it. So, unless you find, like, a medium or somebody you can, like, see and talk to. But if you, like, aren't connected to your guides, or, you're not connected to somebody who like can help you figure this out, then you're on your own with it. And that can be really lonely and really hard and a lot more challenging than doing it when you have access to community now. Which is, yeah. And that was kind of the case for Steve. Like, it felt like he had spent all of his life grinding, like just hustle, like spent all of his time working. And like, you know, going back to the hunger thing with the thought form spirit, like, you know, him being like, I don't know, like 35, 40 in the 80s puts him in, you know, depression period. Or like being raised, I don't know when history happened, but but it puts them in that time period where like you're highly affected growing up. Like if your parents didn't have access to food or to safe resources, then you grew up with that mindset, and like that impacts you. You learn all of your stuff when you're a kid of how to be an adult, and you model how to be an adult by the adults around you. So if you're surrounded by people who are hungry, who are, you know, trying desperately to make ends meet and do things that are, you know, just like working themselves to death and like really, really struggling, that's how you model yourself as an adult. And so it felt like he didn't necessarily not have resources as an adult, but he definitely didn't have resources as a child. And he clung to that. And so now he was trying to take resources from other people.
And that's pretty much what he was. I'd like to think that he wasn't cognizantly looking at you and being like, a person who can perceive me. I want to pull energy off of you or that kind of thing. That's the thing. When you're not in the right mind, you do things that you may not mean to do. And that could go for either mental health stuff or that could go for spirit health stuff. And something I wanted to add to something you said a little bit earlier is when people pass, and I'm not here to force my beliefs on anybody. This is simply from what I've channeled, what I've been shown. It doesn't have to be this lonely thing. Like, we have people who love us to come to get us. And oftentimes, if someone is appearing alone, it may be because they got to the side and they forgot that. They forgot that there were people that loved them. And so they stray away from that. Another way is to, if you're working and you're not even aware of like what's happened to you, you may not be present enough even on the other side to say, oh, these people love me. You know, I want to go with them. You might like get over there and be like, I've got to go to work. You know, that kind of thing. And that's why, once again, none of this is to scare anyone. It's merely to bring attention to how important it is to live in your present now, because you're worth it. So learn from our spirit friends and spirit people. You're worth your time. That's the best way that I can say it. So anywho, back to Steve. When we figured out that the hunger was something that was affecting him, basically what I do in consultations is I give spirits homework. Sometimes I give clients homework, and I like, you know, people to feel like they're walking away with stuff to do, because I believe everybody can do this to some extent. That's why I like to do that. But anyway, what I remember I suggested grounding for him, and I suggested try eating. To show you that you can.
He pitched such a fit. He pitched such a fit. He hated it. So what Rebekah asked me to do is to take him outside and have him connect with the earth. And I was like, that sounds silly. And he's like, because he said, that's stupid. And I was like, I know it sounds silly, but I trust her. Let's just do it. I don't know. I gotta go water my plants. Just come with me.
It's worth a shot, man.
It's like, spirit. Why not? Come on. Like, you're not gonna, either you figure it out or I'm gonna kick you out of my house. So, because that was another element where you said and I did not want this responsibility, but I did take it. He felt as though I could help him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I already have a teenager. How many ghost children am I going to take on? Really?
One.
But, this grown ghost man. We went outside. I watered my plants. And I told him, just go stand in the yard. And he's like, go stand in the yard. And he's like, fine. And he went.
He asked you for help.
He asked me for help. He asked me for help. And then he went and stood in the yard, in the middle of the yard. And he just he stood there and he was like, what is this supposed to do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Feel the vibration or something. I don't know.
Present.
And he was like, we were just bickering. He's like, what is this supposed to, this is dumb. And I was like, it's silly, probably. I understand that. But I don't know, touch some grass. That's what the kids say nowadays. Go out, touch some grass, stand there, let the sun hit your face for a couple of minutes. That helps with me when I feel depressed. So you stand there in the sun, in the grass, and I was just watering my plants, and then he's standing there, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen a ghost do. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen a ghost do. Can I do it justice? Hold on. What I saw.
I'm so excited. I'm getting a reenactment. I'm so excited.
What I saw was this. Ah! And then I asked him, is it working? And he went, yes. I've never seen a ghost pitch a fit before. But it was the funny, it was the... The grass is nice. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a ghost, actually pitch a fit. I've seen them mess with my stuff, but I've never seen one just be full toddler meltdown.
I need you to put on your ghost accoutrement and do that, please. I need it. Ghost meditation. Sometimes you just gotta yell. I get that too.
Sometimes you just gotta yell. You just yelled out. And he's like,
I wish you had the spirit box. Can you even imagine if that had been picked up on the spirit box, just a random I'm sorry.
But then I was like, I'm done watering my plants now. And he's like, okay. And I was like, you want to stay there? And he's like, and I was like, all right, well, when you're ready, you can come back up. We'll talk some more. Or if you need some space, take some space. Touch the grass. Sit in the sun for a little bit. He's a ghost. He can't get sunburned. So I was like, just sit in the sun for a little bit. Just do that. And then when he came back up, this is where it gets really funny. So the food thing. Rebecca, that was so silly to watch him do this. It was so silly to watch him do this. I had leftovers, right? I had leftovers, a chicken sandwich, because you said chicken. And, because you told him to eat food. And he's like, how do I do that? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, I don't know. And then you said, I don't know, maybe eat some chicken, or unless you're vegetarian or vegan, I don't know what you eat. And he says, I'm a man. You remember that?
Meat.
Because you were like, or if you like vegetables, or if you're vegetarian, and he literally just goes, I'm a man. And I was like, you don't need to be a dick. Like, I get that you're a man, but you don't need to be mean. So when we came back up, I left it out for him, and left it out on my my stove, and he comes over to it. And hold on, I want to do another reenactment.
Good. Yes, I'm for it.
Okay, so he comes. Welcome to my living room. This is going to be my chicken. It's actually goldfish.
Good. Yes.
So he comes in and he's like, what do I do? And I said, I don't know. You just
act. Don't
yes,
overthink it.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you do it. I don't know. I've never had to teach a ghost how to eat before. So I was like, I don't know. Should you be like, like, do you want me to make airplane noises for you? What do you want? I don't know how to do it. You're supposed to figure it out. I just told that I need to supply you with some food, and here's the food. So either you eat it or you don't. I don't. You're a man. You're a grown man. Figure it out. Here's your supplies. Figure it out. And so he literally went, this is stupid. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, why are you doing this? It's so weird. And he's like, I don't know. I can't touch it. And he's literally just being like, and then eventually he got it to a point where he didn't like have to move it to his face. He basically took out his venom arm and it was like dementoring the food, which was so weird. And he's like, is this it? And I'm like, I don't know. It looks weird and gross, so I'm going to go away now. I'm going to walk away from this. But literally, he was just like, I was like, quit making all those noises. You're being weird. I don't have to coddle him. I just have to provide for him.
I think he overthought that because I got the idea not only from different cultural practices, but also whenever I go out to Fort Fisher, I always take them Bojangles, and I never had to teach them anything on how to eat food. Like literally, if I put it down long enough, I will eat it again, and it will taste disgusting, and that's how I know that they have. They've basically consumed the energy because everything has energy to it. So yeah, my thought process in it was like, okay, well, if he knows that he can just eat technically whenever he wants to, then that kind of fixes the hunger problem, right? So I'm glad that he tried. Like
he did it. He pitched a fit the entire time, but he did it.
Yeah. But hey, that's what work is like though, right? When you're trying to better yourself, it's not always fun. Sometimes you just gotta go and yell about it. I also,
exactly.
If you can make a reenactment, since you have that editing software where you can kind of do like the double and like, yeah. I guess that would be just put a sandwich out or put whatever out, and then in the next take as the ghost, like just you doing this. So okay, that was a few weeks ago. How's Steve doing now?
Rebekah.
This like how is
he's still an asshole. He's so bad. Oh, he's awful.
I expected that much. Yeah.
He's awful. Because he got frustrated, right? And I had peach cobbler. And I was like, have the peach cobbler. That's great. We have too much. Go. Because our friends brought over peach cobbler. And like, have some peach cobbler.
That's kind. Yeah.
And I saw him standing in front of him. I was like, what's wrong with peach cobbler? Do you not like peach cobbler? And he's like, and I was like, you have to eat food. You're not going to take it from me. And so I had John. So John is like my childhood ghost, right? Mm-hmm. Ghost who protected me from another like malevolent spirit in my childhood home, who is, I guess, now my guide or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he followed me here. He's now here. And like, I had him walking around and he was like trying to be like, now she said, do this, like you do it or you gotta go. And I was like, you can't. John, for those of you who are new, John is like 20, 21 years old. So it's literally like this kid, like he's not that much older than Christopher. He's from the 1800s, but he's not that much like physically older. So it's this like, it's this like very young man trying to reprimand and be intimidating to this venom ghost, which I think was very funny. It was very sweet, but he was like, what happened to the cobbler? The cobbler, he did end up eating the cobbler. It molded, and it was like because it shouldn't have done any of that. It shouldn't have done any of that. It decayed real fast. So I knew
that's how you can tell. It either will like stay preserved and like no bugs will be interested. Like I've left pie outside in a hot summer's night. I actually did it for a spirit named Samuel, who I never made content about, but maybe I should. Yeah, that was another Jimothy tale. We found a guy who thought Jimothy was a deserter, and that was a whole thing. But anyway, I left him pie out because we basically had to be like, hey, do you know what year it is? It's not 1864. So basically, Jimothy, he went out to talk to the guy. He tried to get me to do it. He's just like, I don't want to talk to him. You talk to him. And I was just like, you're the ghost, dude. Like, go on, talk.
You have more in common. Go.
Yeah. So like they had this conversation, and Jimothy had pie that was saved over, and he shared his pie with this man. But it's like sweet pie. Like it's a summer night in coastal Carolina. There are bugs everywhere. By morning, no bug was on that pie. None. Nothing whatsoever. No dead bugs, no nothing. So I was just like, yep, the essence has been absorbed. And I thought that would... Jimothy sharing his pie, that's huge for him. He was like, this man's sad. He was like, this is his wife. Because that was a long time ago. And he keeps talking about his kid and his dog. And I was just like, Jimothy, just listen to him. And he's like, okay. Like... He's like, can you bring the pie? I was like, yep, pie makes everything better.
Pie makes everything better. Absolutely. Absolutely. But where we're at now with that, after he ate the pie, he was not around. He wasn't around me because he knew he couldn't, like, anytime he kind of came into my vicinity, he would try and intimidate me. And then I would just put my barriers up. And I'd be like, no, you're not gonna do this. Do you want me to kick you out? You're in my house. These are my rules. And like my ghost cat was freaking out. So I'm like, you're freaking out my cat. Like you can't. No, you either follow the plan and you work on it. It's not fun. It's not fun to work on mental health issues and to unpack the trauma. I get that. But you need to at least get this thing off of you because you don't need it, first of all. And second of all, like, is it doing you any good? You just seem really upset. Like, it doesn't seem like a fun existence. And Christopher's over here dabbing, like, compare and contrast. Like, he's having the time of his life. And he's just like hanging out. And people are thirsting over him in my comments, which is a really weird thing. And I hate it. But like, they're like, oh my God, tell Christopher I say hi. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But he does read my comments over my shoulder. And one time I was reading comments and he like came through the wall. And he's like, what are you doing? What are they saying about me? And I was like, you know what they're saying about you. He was like, I do. Just thought I should remind you. And he went back through the wall. And I was like, you. Classic. He's got a big, he already had a big ego. He has an even bigger ego now. But compare and contrast that to Steve, who's over there just being like, peach cobbler, peach cobbler. And it's like, yeah, I feel like your priorities are a little bit skewed. But since I wouldn't let him, I'd put barriers up. And John wasn't letting him do anything. And Christopher was like not interacting with him at all. He felt really uneasy around him.
I felt uneasy around mean people too, so I get that.
Exactly.
Like, popcorn spirit aside, venom aside, I'm like, well, I don't like hanging out with mean people either. They don't make me feel good.
Exactly. And so a couple of nights when I started lucid dreaming, I would see him right before, because I have to be like tranquilized before I go to bed, because I have insomnia. So I would take my meds and I would be like in the middle of falling asleep. And I'm like, it's a point of no return. And then I would see him just like manifest in the room and reach out towards me. And I was like, I hate you. This is so
like, do
bad.
You want to help? That's not how you get help, dude.
Exactly. And so like he would stand there and he'd reach out towards me. And it is very much like Venom. It really is. But like not new Venom, old Venom. Topher Grace Venom. Where it was like you reach out and it's like, you know, comes up towards you like a whip. It was like that. And it was like, I can't. So I would like do this and then I'd call John and, you know, he would only come sometimes or he'd try his best. And like he couldn't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And so then I would have like these really, really bad nightmares. Mm-hmm. And I started lucid dreaming to be able to like stop the nightmare. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it would happen like 3 nights in a row to the point where I was like, no, you don't get to do this anymore. You don't get to do this anymore. Get out of my house. Mm-hmm. Like you either follow the rules or you leave. Mm-hmm. And right now I'm leaning towards leaving. Mm-hmm. Like,
yep. P.S.
You can't do this.
Like, for anybody watching, anybody can do this. Anybody can stand up for themselves. Anybody can say no to a spirit. Never think that you're in a situation where you're like, it's big and scary and it's telling me that it'll never go. No, you can make it go. Like, it's your will against theirs. So please don't think that, oh, just because Hannah is clairvoyant and Rebekah is whatever I am, like I'm a cornucopia of spiritual, etc. Like, but yeah, anybody can do this. So please, understand that you are empowered too. So anyway, back to Hannah. I just wanted to get
the way that you do it, the way that I do it, and it's gonna sound weird when I say it. I mean, not to Rebekah, but maybe to other people who are new to like paranormal stuff. But you have to like, your vibration has to be strong, like mm-hmm. within yourself. And mm-hmm. the way that I think of it is that you have to go Super Saiyan whenever you like are interacting with setting up barriers, where you just have to go inward and reassure yourself. Mm-hmm. And you just like, you have to build up energy around you mm-hmm. and expand that. Like it honestly, it feels, when you do it, it feels like you just have sheer confidence. And you're like, this is working. And that is enough. Mm-hmm. Like, if it makes you feel better, that is usually enough. But like the way that I figure out, like, if I'm pushing it far enough away, it's, again, gonna be weird when I say this, but it's like, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, when Toph would like step and it would like ripple out and she would feel all of the stuff. That's what you got to do, where you're like, where is the negative energy? If I push out my energy, where's it coming into bumps? And if where you have a bump, mm-hmm. that's where your angry ghost is. So then you just got to make sure to like shield up there. Yeah. All these references? Yes. I watch TV. Guys, I collect movies. I watch a lot of stuff.
So you can use that. That's the thing. Like, sometimes fantasy movies and like sci-fi movies and like superhero movies, they can be your best friend, because if you see something that they do and you want to be like, yo, I I want to be able to do that. Like, spiritually speaking, like when it talks shielding, protecting yourself, be inspired by other people who were inspired. So yeah, go watch movies, read books.
Somebody said earthbend the spirits away.
Earthbend the spirit.
And honestly, yeah, that kind of works. Spiritually, earthbend the spirits away. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. Like that's how it is. Grounding is somebody else said. Grounding is, that's how I imagine grounding, where it's like I become aware of, I basically open up everything. Where, you know, you see things with your physical eyes. I can see things with both. So with my physical eyes and my inner eye. And so like, that's how I do it. I basically just open up all of my vision, all of my peripherals, and I get really in tune with what's happening to me and around me. Like, I know when like a piece of dust is falling. I am aware of every corner of every room, every shadow. And like, you can try, like, a lot of times, you know how owls, when I know a lot of information about owls, bear with me.
Hashtag
So
Elfac.
when owls have different sized ears, one is really big and one's really small. And that's why they swivel their head. And when you'll see owls do something like this, it's because they're trying to locate where that sound is. So if they use their big ear or their small ear, they can tell which one it's coming from and which one it's impacting. So when you like, that's a lot of times what I do when I'm trying to figure out, is that a shadow person or is it just like a place my lamp doesn't go? Especially like when you wake up and like, or you're in a dark room or you're alone and you're you're really aware of everything that's going on around you. You gotta you gotta pretend to be an owl, and you're like, is that, are we doing that? Like, if I move my glasses this way, is that where the light is coming from? Like, trial and error it out. And if it doesn't go away no matter what you do, then you know, you're pretty much dealing with a ghost at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of it like it's like a sonar fog for me. Like if I'm in a space, it's like I send out this sort of fog. And I do it in a sense so that I don't get picked up for it because a recent skit on Bucket Guy, who I called him for a really long time, I sent out this fog and I was just learning about it. This is actually something that happened over a year ago and I just now got to posting it. And I sent out my fog and I made its frequency too obvious. And like this guy was not paying attention to me whatsoever, but I sent it out and he was just like, and then he looks over, and this is when I was living in the bus at the time, and he looks over and I was like, shit. I'm like, so I'm like reeling in my energy. I'm like, no. He goes up to the bus door and it's not even phasing him that it's a bus. Like this is a guy from like an early 1800s, right? But he's just kind of like looking up through the window of the door. And that's when I started having the conversation with him. So since then, I learned the lesson. If I'm gonna send out the fog, and the fog like would go around, you know, people, spirits, what have you, to not send it out like a welcome wagon, because if you do, that's how folks are like, oh, somebody wants to talk to me, and then all of a sudden I've got like X, Y, and Z around the block all coming over to say hello. It's the same thing. Spirit boxes can kind of do that on a different level. And yes. I recently did a spirit box session, just a short one. It's going to be going up on my Patreon later. Of course, being in a very haunted city, you get conversations from all over the place. And so I was hearing two guys. Once again, I sent out my fog. There were two guys, two doors down across the way. There was like a woman and a child, like a house down on the other side of the street. And then every now and then you get Rupert like saying what Rupert says, being like, I'm here, Rupert. Like he knows the things because I'm like, okay, can you tell me your name? Like, are you here? And then like every now and then he gets frustrated and you get like a Welsh word. You get the Welsh drop and I'm like, I don't know what you said. And it's just like, that's it.
Because whenever I like feel out my area, usually John will be like, what? Mm-hmm. What? And then Christopher literally is usually just being like, huh? Like he's always
like styling
Or
his
he'll
hair.
like just pop in and be like, what? Like, Peggy is always like, oh, and it's like, oh, okay. She's very anxious. She's very anxious. She's like, oh, it's like, okay. I know where you guys are. I can freaking see you. I'm trying to figure out who just clapped in my stairwell. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why was there like a giant like white mist that when I opened my closet door, it went whoa, and then just like whoosh. Like that's what I'm trying to discern. Not, Christopher picking his nose in the middle of the living room. I don't really care about that. I don't really have any interest in that. But for the last like 2 minutes, he's been giving me a wet willy. He's literally just been going like that in my ear, and it's the most annoying thing.
Wow. At some point, he and Timothy need to meet. I feel like they would get along.
Yeah. He's here now, by the way. He's here.
See, now I'm doing the thing. I'm like, oh, there's the head, but it doesn't always happen that way. So yeah, hi.
Everybody say hello to Christopher. I don't know if you guys can see it, but he literally just went.
Oh man. So okay. So you. Okay. So Steve was, like trying to be him, and so you like revved up, and you were like, "No, sir, not today." Like, what happened after that? Do you have a status quo yet?
Do I? Wait. What do you mean? Sorry, I am trying to. My chat is spammed with "Hello, young man." "Hello, Christopher."
Yeah, there are folks in my chat too. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want me to leave the camera so you could be on camera?
Yeah, have him be involved. Good deal.
He literally like came so close. He's like, "What? Why? No, come back."
This is the Christopher. We are just beings in the life. Thank you. I don't know why I always do this. I am Christopher. Yeah. No. Like, yeah.
And he just likes being called Christopher. He does not like being called Chris.
That's important.
He likes being called.
We need to honor. Yes, we need to honor their choice.
Oh my God! He literally. Somebody said, "What's up?" and he just allow me to reenact what he just did.
Mm-hmm.
What up?
So I have a last question before going. Yeah. I did just click it though. I made an offering to Hermes, which is that wine glass, before this live. So that could be where the energy is. Wow, totally forgot that. Anyway. So okay, last question. So Steve, I mentioned status quo before. Like, is he just sort of hanging out until he either finds a better place to hang out and move on, or is, like you've also mentioned, working with him, but also ensuring that he doesn't go haywire and making sure that he respects your boundaries and your levels of consent. So like, where do we go from here?
I understand that I also need to value my mental health. And I'm not about to be terrorized in my own home. So, like, he's on real thin ice. Mm-hmm. He's on real thin ice. And the fact that I'm hearing clapping again, because I told you when I called you at the very beginning of all this, that, like, I was hearing clapping in my house. Like, just loud, single claps. And it wasn't anyone that's here, but it was somewhere else. There's like another older couple that lives here. I've only ever seen them like a couple of times. Mm-hmm. But they're like in like 20s party wear. And this house was built in the 1920s. So the guy's wearing like a tux with a top hat. And the woman's wearing like a longer beaded dress with like the beaded thing with the, you know what I'm talking about? The classic like 1920s.
Yeah.
Very Jay Gatsby. So I see them every now and then. And I've only ever seen them at the bottom of the stairs. So what I'm thinking is that they're the ones clapping. And when we talked about it initially, you're like, have you noticed anything weird going on? Because he's been there a while. I was like, yeah, I keep hearing claps.
Mm-hmm.
As a sign of warning.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, something's up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to bring you attention. You need to like perk up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Something's happening. And the fact that I heard one literally like 20 minutes before this live started, I was like, no.
So maybe he just needs to stay out of the house. Maybe
Maybe
like
he needs to go pitch a fit in the yard more.
Yeah, like I think that was very healing for him. Go out and be Rain Man in the yard. Just yell. It can be very, very cathartic.
Yeah. Who are you seeing in the doorway? There's no one in the doorway. There is a plant stand out there, though. Can mediums tell if someone else is a medium? It's mostly when you share stories and you're like, can you? When I see a ghost.
Yeah, it's really like
if I see a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, when I see ghosts. And you're like, okay.
I'm actually making a skit about that. You know, I've got the Muggles against, or medium v Muggle thing, like skit that I'm doing. I'm gonna have one medium v medium. It's just like, do you see this? Yeah, I see this. Have you seen that before? Like, it's like, have you astral traveled? Do you lucid dream? Do you like, you know, who do you work with? It's just gonna be like back and forth until finally both are exhausted and they're like, that's it.
Yeah. Somebody keeps asking what Christopher looks like. And this is a question I get all the time. So I will answer this question so that everybody has the full picture of what we're dealing with here. So you remember Austin Powers, right? Dr. Evil's son, Scott, played by Seth Green, where he had the spiky hair and the like heavy jean jacket. And he's like, gosh, you know, that kind of energy. That's kind of the style, because remember, styles are cyclical, 30-year cycles. So the 90s are now back in fashion. So he wears, usually when I see him, he wears baggy jeans, not Janko jeans, but he wears baggy jeans, light wash, gray usually, with some rips in them. He has on, I mean, he's not here anymore. He's like, okay, we're done. But he's wearing like a shirt, like a t-shirt. And then he has on like a weathered jean jacket with a hoodie on underneath it. And his hair is like spiky, but it's not like faux hawked. It's just like spiky. He's a short king. He's 5'6". And he's real skinny. He's like, you know, he's lanky. His nose is bigger. He has a very prominent nose. And it's a little bulbous. And he's the kind of guy who would wear a visor upside down, but with the bill in the front.
Good. Very good.
So that's what we're working with here. That's what Christopher looks like.
On that note, I am going to go.
Yes.
This by no means that your fun has to end. So are you going to stay on?
Yeah, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, so my folks, go check out Hannah.
come hang out with me.
Yes.
I'll be answering questions for a little bit.
And for anybody who wants to review this, if you came in late, it will be up on my YouTube sometime within the weekish. I might have to cut it into 2 pieces for time. So, but yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Hannah for catching me up on the thing. I will trust that you're going to do exactly what you need to do when it comes to your piece. Hear that, Steve?
Rebecca says, "Fuck off, Steve."
Rebecca says go stand outside until you figure out.
Oh, touch some grass, Steve.
Oh my goodness. Anywho, you have a great night, and I'll probably talk to you tomorrow because we have that chat. So,
All right, I love you very much, Red. Thanks for going live with me.
yes, love you. Bye.
All right, we will be staying.